Hello and welcome to Flix and Chill with me, Luke. And this episode, I have a very special guest here. It's Mr. Aaron. So, Aaron, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Aaron. I'm editor at sifpop.com and host of the Sifpop Writers Room podcast, and happy to be on this show.
And I am very happy to have you here. So, Aaron and we know each other through Sift Pop. Our, common passion with all of our guests here is movies. So, my first question is, what made you the movie guy, Aaron?
Yeah, my answer I think is not necessarily a particular movie, but a person, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think I'd watched a lot of movies and I just didn't know like how often people had, right? And then all of
Mm-hmm.
a sudden came across this guy who really like encouraged that in me because he could just tell I just realized that oh yeah, no, I've seen a lot of movies and I'm familiar with a lot, and of course comparatively I knew nothing,
Mm-hmm.
but middle schoolers that had seen movies that weren't whatever the hot trend was, that had seen more than, I guess if I was in middle school it was like the Transformers movies, people that had seen more than just the Transformers movies,
Yeah.
right? And then so I just kind of leaned into that. But it was because of this guy, and he would give me recommendations and we would talk
Mm-hmm.
about, I was just excited to see him and we would talk about movies. He was like a mentor to me, and
Okay.
yeah, we talked a lot about movies, and he's full of trivia, full of wisdom, full of
Mhm.
knowledge. Just really loved that guy, and
So was he like a
he's
teacher or like a random person he met
he,
or
yeah, he was an adult sponsor at the church that I attended for the youth
okay.
group. So like he was, yeah, like he was there to kind of like engage with the
Hmm.
students and be their friends, and he was wildly impactful for me. So
Nice.
I noticed he had tattoos. I kept on asking him, and he has like on his thigh on
Hmm.
one side he has the comic book portrait of the Crow,
Hmm.
and on the other side he has Brandon Lee's face in Crow makeup,
Ooh.
because The Crow is among his favorite movies, and the death of Brandon Lee is his most like tragic cinema moment.
Oh, okay.
So,
Because
so
obviously it correlates with his death as well, unfortunately.
oh yeah, yeah,
The actual actor, yeah, the actor, not your guy, obviously. No, no, no. Just
yeah. I was like, no, he's alive
no, no, no,
still.
no.
So I think it was just one of those. It just somebody gave me somebody kind of realized something that I didn't realize about myself, and then I
Hmm.
just like I was like, oh yeah, yeah, no,
Hmm.
that's cool. And then I was able to get more into it, find out about more movies, or maybe take that extra step, instead
Hmm.
of again just whatever new Transformers movie was out there, but like get recommended, older movies that
Hmm.
we talk about a lot on these movie podcasts or whatnot.
So what would be your favorite movie he recommended to you?
That's a great question.
Hmm.
Honestly, it's probably The Crow, and I think I love that
Hmm.
movie so much because he loved it.
Hmm.
Like because it's got that sentimental attachment. I think there's a really interesting thing with movies where like, your favorite person in the world could recommend the worst movie in the world, and you'd be like, I loved it.
Hmm.
I think The Crow's a really good movie in general. I think it's iconic in terms of its visuals and its score, and of course its lead performance. And it's just a shame that all the sequels are terrible. But
Hmm.
it's a solid movie regardless. But that extra oomph, yeah, it just makes me really love that movie.
I see. Like, see, here's the thing. I don't want to be like the contrarian from very beginning, but I watched The Crow like 2 years ago after all this
Yeah,
hype, and I was like, is this it? Like, for me, it was just messy and incoherent. I was like, why do
sure.
people love it? So, like, I
It's a
need to
very
rewatch it.
straightforward story, but I
Mm-hmm.
mean, Brandon Lee just sells it, and I
It
think
was
it's
good.
directed super well. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He also, this also, I guess, kind of counts. I had never seen an X-Men movie, and I showed up at his house one day to do something, and then we watched X-Men First Class, and I was
Oh,
like, I'm all in. And then I watched every X-Men movie to date, at that point. So, because just that movie is so good. I was like, if this is what it can be, I'm
mm-hmm.
in. So maybe X-Men First Class is the right answer because I was like, I don't care.
No, but First Class is a great way to start with X-Men. And again, like, I don't want to shit all over your, like, The Crow because that's obviously your movie. Like, I don't need to like it. Here's the thing, like, movies are there to be liked, and what hits for you doesn't hit for me, and other way around. So, no, we're
Sure.
all good. We're all good. So, besides movies, right?
Hmm.
What would you say if I were to tell you, okay, give me a profile of who Aaron is? What are your
Hmm.
likes? What are your dislikes?
Yeah. Aside from watching movies, playing
Yeah,
video games, TV, stuff like that, I'm married. 4-year anniversary like 3 weeks ago. So,
congrats.
thank you, appreciate that. She just recently modeled some wedding dresses at an expo event, so I now officially get to say I married a model, which is awesome.
Nice.
Young me would be so happy.
Living the dream.
Yeah, absolutely. I live in Iowa, which is in the middle of nowhere.
Hmm.
But I live in Iowa City, which is like this really cool, like Iowa's a bunch of cornfields, and in America, the only reason we ever think of Iowa is essentially it's a presidential election year this year in
Yes,
America. So be prepared for that.
I am aware.
So Iowa is what they call the first caucus, which means that when they're doing all the primaries, the Republican and the Democratic, Iowa is the first state that they poll to kind of figure out. So Iowa is a heavily campaigned state
Hmm.
for political opponents and then or competitors, I guess, not necessarily opponents. Hopefully not I mean, I get they should be opposed, but
Yeah.
maybe be less dickish about it. So essentially they take Iowa and they're like, let's judge a lot of things by this. Let's see how we're polling in Iowa, and then
Hmm.
that some people might determine to drop out of the race from there. Or like I think the Republican national primary just ran through and like Trump won like 50% of the votes and DeSantis was 25 and Nikki Haley was like 10. And look,
Hmm.
all of them could go kick rocks, but so people were like, "Oh, hey, like Nikki, like you're still got a chance, right? It's Iowa, especially if Donald Trump does wind up going to prison. Then,
Hmm.
sorry, not if, when Donald Trump does wind up going to prison, then, then you still got a pretty fighting chance. It's not like DeSantis ran away with it, and I'm sure they're
Hmm.
looking. I'm sure DeSantis's party's being like, "Hey, we got to pump these numbers up." Anyway, so yeah, so I live in Iowa.
Hmm.
But it's a really cool like. Iowa City itself is a city of about 60,000 people, but we have 30,000 college students that come here.
Wow.
So it's like it's kind of nice where it's like in the summers it's not a ghost town like some college
Hmm.
cities, but when there are students here, the place is packed and it like really feels like a big city.
Hmm.
We in Iowa City like to refer to ourselves as Chicago's farthest suburb.
Hmm.
It's a 3.5 hour drive, but like everybody lived in Chicago at one point.
I see.
So yeah, and 3.5 hour drive in the Midwest is not very long. 3.5 hour drive in the UK would get you top to bottom, right?
Yeah, I could from where I live, I could comfortably get to the border with England in 3.5 hours. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, 3.5 hours is nothing in the Midwest, and
True.
yeah, I frequently go there. I'm a huge hockey fan. I support the Chicago Blackhawks, and
Nice.
I got a local team, so I'm a big, big
Hmm.
fan of hockey. Try to go to at least one game a week, or sorry, not a week, a year.
Okay.
If I lived closer, maybe once a week would be
I
awesome,
was
but
like, I
once a
didn't know
year.
you were such a big fan, like one game a week. Wow.
No, if I lived closer, I'd probably try to go once a week.
Hmm.
Like if I lived in the suburbs, why not? Especially because if you can wait till game day,
Hmm.
you can get tickets for pretty cheap. But as it stands now, it's like, oh, I got to find one game. I'm a drummer. I like to play drums. I don't think a lot of people know that about me. I
Okay.
like my favorite like genre is like late 2000s alternative rock.
Hmm.
Like that first album from Imagine Dragons is incredible, and I love the Supermassive, or sorry, Black Holes and Revelations album from Muse, and their Hysteria album is awesome, and the Drones is maybe their best album they've ever put out. Muse is my favorite alternative rock band. I'm a metalhead. I love August Burns Red is my favorite band, and We Came as Romans are great. I pretty much listen to anything besides country though. But,
Fair.
I think the only other thing that I'll mention, at least the thing I'm thinking about right now, is just that I'm a bartender by trade, and
Hmm.
I guess not really by trade because I didn't go to school for bartending. Anyway, I'm employed as a bartender, and
Hmm.
I work at a really cool craft cocktail place, which is we have a selection of 36 different beers on tap at any given time.
Nice.
Mostly local brews, but
Hmm.
we're gonna have a couple of your basics, not as many as you might think though.
All
Like I
right.
think the only like big ones we have are Busch Light and Bud Light, and then everything else is
Hmm.
either local or like you typically Iowa local and then rotating because we have nothing to do in Iowa besides make and drink alcohol. So
Yeah.
um So yeah, I do. We have 36 different beers on tap, and we have 80 different kinds of whiskeys.
Hmm.
Um, and then a bunch of other stuff as well. So I really feel like I learned a lot working at this shop, and have taken those trades home and figured out just how to make good stuff. Nothing fancy,
Hmm.
nothing pretentious or whatever, but I
Hmm.
just love the flavors that alcohol can bring, and the way that they can make you feel when used responsibly.
Yes,
But
responsibly, always
Yeah,
responsibly.
responsibly. Yeah, and and just the way that like it just like it's such a casual thing for people to like, yeah, let's just go get a drink like that.
Hmm.
It's a nice and easy. Who says no to that social interaction?
Hmm.
Because you could be like, well, I don't know what we do. Like, let's go bowling, right? And
Yeah.
well, I don't want to go bowling, or whatever,
Hmm.
But sure, let's just go grab a beer, right? And you can even like go to a bar and be like, yeah, I don't feel like drinking, but sure, I'll go get an appetizer. Yeah, that's
Hmm.
fine. Or I'm not drinking, and that's fine. I'll go, yeah, I'll go hang out. I'll get a Pepsi and an appetizer, and great.
Hmm.
I guess on that note, I also do make my own alcohol. I make mead, which is wine that is fermented with, sorry, yeah, fermented with honey. Fermented is the wrong word. It's made with honey,
Okay.
so it's a super high sugar concentration. Have you heard of it before? They have it
Yes.
over there? Okay.
I don't think I think we might have it. I don't know if I've ever had it, but I heard you talk about it on the Sifted Writers Room podcast, so
Nice.
I knew that about you.
It was started by the Vikings actually, but yeah,
Hmm.
it's essentially you make wine except you add a per gallon 2 pounds of honey
Wow.
into the process of yeah, it's fermentation process.
Thank you.
But just fermented to me sounds like fermented cabbage or fermented like
Yeah.
like to make kimchi, but
Hmm.
yeah, anyway, whatever the word is. Yeah,
It's all good.
the you so 2 pounds of honey per gallon of water to make this
Hmm.
wine, and then it winds up being like 15% alcohol, but like remarkably sweet, like you're drinking
Hmm.
orange juice,
Hmm.
it's incredible. And it's been really fun to play around with that.
So you mentioned you're a drummer. So
Yep.
what's the first song you've learned to play? What you would say it's learned to play properly, and what is your favorite song to play?
hmm Yeah, I'm a self-taught drummer, so
Hmm.
the way that I learned to play was I just had a drum set, and I had already played a couple years of like percussion in
Hmm.
high school, but never like a drum set. So I just took some songs that sounded easy to play, and would play along with them at home, and
Hmm.
then just progressively picked harder songs. So my the first one I distinctly remember being like, yeah, that sounds easy enough, but also like you can mix it up a little bit. There's a song from Rise Against, and it's off of their like probably best album, but it's a fine song. It's called Audience of One, I think is the first one I distinctly remember being like, yeah, sure. And that stayed on my playlist for a while.
Hmm.
But eventually I definitely outgrew that one.
And do you have any like a favorite one to play? If I were to ask, okay,
Yeah,
Aaron,
yeah, yeah.
showcase me your skill.
Yeah, there's a song. Oh man, you gotta make me just pick one. I'm gonna give you two. I'm gonna give you two for good
I'll allow it.
reasons. The first is if I'm trying to play it like straight as close to the track as I can, and that's a
Hmm.
song by We Came as Romans. It's their first ever single called "To Plant a Seed." It's really complex.
Hmm.
It changes time signatures like six different times in the song, and it changes beats, it changes rhythm. It's all got the same kind of energy, but it just kind of like takes you in different places in this 3.5 minute song. It's a workout, man. That one's hard. But I love playing it.
Hmm.
But like a lot of times those songs, like I don't really play to try to be 100% accurate. I try to play like feel. So for that one, like I don't hit everything totally right, but I'm mostly there,
Hmm.
in the 90% accurate, right? And then
Yeah.
I sometimes do my own stuff. So for that, I'll say there's some songs that I love playing that are like a good energy that I just try to bring some extra to that I'm not trying to play, from scratch. I'm trying to play if I were to drum remix this one. And so I'll say there's actually I think musicals are a great way to play with these. So
Okay.
like I've done like the main track from Greatest Showman, The Greatest Showman,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
the title track. I've done there's a song from Dear Evan Hansen called Good for You that I think is really fun to kind of play around with because it's this like upbeat punky energy. But the one that I'll say is actually it's from La La Land, and
Mm,
it's the song "Start a Fire," which is the one that John Legend's band makes, and Ryan Gosling goes and tours and absolutely hates it. You know, the
mm,
song is supposed to represent everything that's wrong with music, and
yeah.
it's just fun and it's simple and it's really nice to just groove along to and add your own stuff. So, yeah,
Aaron's referencing La La Land. Who could have thought?
and Ryan Gosling, so.
True. Oh yeah, two for one. Look at you go. So you
I'll just
mentioned
hit you got a bingo card ready for me?
yes, oh, yes, on the side it's ready. It's just filling up as we go. So you mentioned based in Iowa City.
Yes,
So
sir.
if I were to ask you, look, I'm coming there for a week, not to necessarily stay with you, but maybe.
Mhm.
And what do I need to see in that week? What should I visit and where should I eat?
So being in Iowa City, there's lots of things around, but like
Hmm.
none of them are like there's not any places that would be like, yeah, you got to go here. Like I
Okay.
would be like, so Iowa City is about like 3.5 hours from Chicago, 4 hours from St. Louis, 4 hours from the Twin Cities in Minneapolis, where the Mall of America is,
Hmm.
and like 3.5 hours from Kansas City.
Hmm.
So like it's a city that is kind of dead center to a bunch of massive cities.
Hmm.
And while that like so part of me wants to say I would take you to Chicago for a day and I would take you to Minneapolis for a day and I'd take you to Kansas City to go watch the Chiefs play and I'd go down to St. Louis. But that's if we want to stay true to the question, right? Like you could do
Hmm.
maybe one of those, right? Maybe go to Chicago for a day, but
Hmm.
there's a lot of like local indie stuff. Iowa City's huge in supporting like small businesses and whatnot. So the easiest answer is food, right? Like you
Yeah.
mentioned, which restaurants would you take to? There's a place called Monica's it's Italian food and it's obviously Americanized Italian, but
Hmm.
it's really good. They like hand make most of their stuff, and they have a ribeye on their menu that is, it's got a gorgonzola, red wine like glaze that they put on it, and it's
Wow.
just delicious.
Hmm.
Which are two things that sound like, oh yeah, I don't, but yeah, but it's just the combination. It just works really well. And like they make their own salad dressings there, and they have like this bacon vinaigrette that's just incredible. And you're like, oh, that's like really interesting. Bacon
Hmm.
tomato vinaigrette. I don't know that I want to try that. And you try it and you're like, I don't know that I want to have anything else in my life ever
Hmm.
again. Yeah. So Monica's is a good go-to. I think the restaurant that I work at has really great food as
Hmm.
well. And yeah, we have like shrimp fried rice. It's kind of like an Asian fusion, but like obviously Americanized. So like we have like burgers and we have wings and stuff, but yeah, we have like shrimp fried rice. We have a Korean steak bowl, which is like a flank steak with like kimchi and fried egg and
Hmm.
spiralized carrots and edamame and stuff like that. It's really good. Just the biggest salads you've ever seen in your life in there. So yeah, so there's those and then yeah, there's a lot of really good. There's a place called the Hipster, which I'm like 30 minutes from Cedar Rapids, which is like 250,000 people in it.
Hmm.
It's the second biggest city in Iowa, so like it's not at all like we go to Cedar Rapids regularly. So yeah, there's a place called the Hipster in Cedar Rapids. That's great. The most like Americanized place I could take you is a place called Edith Lucille's in Cedar Rapids. The food scene is huge here. As far as the rest of the stuff, like I think just walking around the area would be about it. Again, there's not necessarily like, you know, got to take you to this place because it's a really cool, but it's like our downtown area is like so Iowa City was built it was like the third capital of Iowa.
Hmm.
And then they kind of built the University of Iowa, which has been around since the 1800s, on like kind of subsequent, and then the capital moved to Des Moines
Hmm.
when they needed to be less reliant on the rivers, and um, and so the university bought those buildings, and but of course that was the epicenter of what is downtown, and so everybody built as close to there as they possibly could.
Hmm.
So it's like a really interesting, like hard to find parking, especially for free, and but yeah, you can walk anywhere to anywhere, and you can spend a couple hours, and it's all good. So yeah, it's a really cool city. I don't know that there's like
Hmm.
a. I'm sure when you were talking to Heath about St. Louis, I'm sure he had a lot more like, yeah, I'll take you to
Yeah.
this place, this place. Yeah, Iowa City is not it's not very big geographically, and it's not a massive population, so there's not too much. I could take
Hmm.
you to if you've never been to something. We just got a golf driving range that uses Top Golf technology.
Oh.
which if you've never like heard of that, it's a driving range, and then they have like flags out in the driving range,
Hmm.
and then the range will track your ball that you hit, and then it makes like little mini games out of it. So like
Oh, okay.
there's either it's one of two ways that they're done. So either there's sensors in every single ball, and when it dispenses the ball, it tracks your sensor,
Hmm.
or there's cameras that just track from the bay that you shoot. And
Hmm.
yeah, and then it'll match it and it'll say how close you get to a flag, and that's how many points you get, and then you can bring some friends and it's a fun time.
That sounds good. Even though I like your, I ask you about where would you take me, and your first instinct is let's go out of
Yep.
Iowa City.
Yeah. Again, it's just like there's not too much to do, especially
No,
when
I
I'm,
understand.
like in Iowa, we have I guess if you came during football season, I'd absolutely take you to an Iowa City football game.
Hmm.
Because we don't have there's not a single professional sport team in Iowa. So
Hmm.
we're really big into our college sports. Even though Iowa football is mediocre, and Iowa men's basketball is mediocre. Iowa women's basketball is arguably the best in the country, and
Ooh.
we have like maybe the greatest player ever on our team right now. So tickets are if you want to go to a men's game, you can get tickets for about like $40. But if you want to go to get tickets to a women's game, you're looking at like $300.
What's her
Um,
name?
Caitlin Clark.
Oh, that's her. Yeah, I've heard about
Yeah.
her. I was like, is
Yeah,
it one
she's
of
in
the?
Iowa. She's a student at Iowa, and she might even have one more year left. I don't know if she's decided to declare for the draft, but
Mhm. See, I don't
anyway,
care
we'll
about
see.
NBA or like let
Mhm.
alone like college basketball or college either. And even I have heard of her because yeah,
Yeah,
she's supposed to be very good.
she's a
So,
phenom. Yeah. Yeah, so we're really big into our college sports, but yeah,
hmm.
so I could take you to a local sport, and sometimes that's good energy, but yeah,
Hmm. Hmm.
I'm
Okay.
I could take you to some food places and then be like, all right, cool. You want to see some cool stuff? Let's go to Chicago.
Nice.
But I also like I grew up near Chicago, so that's also
Hmm.
still kind of home for me. So
No, that's fair. That is fair. And that's why people, people live different places, people move. So yeah,
yeah,
there's
yeah.
more than just one place to call home. You mentioned your place where you work that has decent food, and I
Hmm.
forgot to ask. So you're a bartender. What is
Yes,
your
sir.
favorite cocktail to make, just to make,
Hmm.
and what is your
Hmm.
favorite for you to drink? So if you were, let's say, off
Yeah.
or you're just finishing, and the boss says, you know what, and you had a great shift, make one cocktail for yourself free of charge on a house. What would you make for
Hmm.
yourself?
Hmm. My favorite is my favorite cocktail. There's two of them, I think,
Hmm.
that if they said make yourself a drink and or if I stayed after or whatever, it just
Hmm.
depend I think it would depend on how I'm feeling. We have this drink called the Saigon Smash, which is an archive drink for us, so it's not on our menu anymore, but we can still make it.
Hmm.
It's muddled cucumber, basil, and jalapeno. And
Ooh.
then you add to that gin and lime juice and just like sugar syrup, simple syrup.
Oh.
And then you top it with black pepper. So it's got this like the botanicals of the gin, but it's got like a just a touch of that citrus, but from the lime that's also got some of the sweetness. But then like you get the cucumber and the jalapeno, like a little bit of the spice from the jalapeno. It's just one of those where it's like there's like 10 different like little subtle flavors in it, and I think it's just a remarkable cocktail. If I wanted something different or something that was like more like a little bit less like straightforward or whatnot, or a little bit less like bright. We have
Hmm.
this drink. It's an old-fashioned variation called the Catcher in the Rye. So it's made with rye whiskey. And then we hand make a lot of our like syrup. So like we make our simple syrup in house,
Hmm.
and we make a vanilla and rosemary infused simple syrup. So we use the rye whiskey, which is for somebody that doesn't know whiskey, it's whiskey but spicy.
Hmm.
So it's like and spicy in terms of like actual spices, not like oh they put jalapenos in whiskey. It's like
Yeah.
no, that's a different thing. That's
Yes.
jalapeno whiskey, but it's like very like herby, very like they
Hmm.
added a bunch of thyme and black pepper and
Hmm.
this and this and this and obviously rye into the whiskey. So it's spicy whiskey. Seasoned whiskey is maybe the better way to
Hmm.
put it. And on top of this seasoned syrup, this vanilla rosemary, which is remarkably sweet and it's delicious.
Hmm.
And then it's got orange bitters and black walnut bitters in it as well. And it's just this perfect like I love if I'm gonna have whiskey, I'm gonna have rye more times than not. And the vanilla like it's just this perfect combination of like really drinkable,
Hmm.
sippable cocktail. It's awesome.
The first
So
one sounds very interesting to me. It sounds like when you were describing it, I was like, that must be like wise all over the place. But
yeah,
I would be all for it. Like if I
but
ever
it
see it on
all
a
works
menu,
together really well. Yeah.
because yeah, no, I could see it. I could see it. All right. And okay, and what's your favorite to make? So, and what's something that if many people order it, you're like, oh yeah, one of these, let's go.
I love making this drink, and it's because I think it's so good. First of all, the two that I mentioned, I love making, and we have systems set up to where none of our cocktails are labor intensive. So for some of them, we do a system called pre-batching, which is essentially just saying like we have specific things on our menu
Yeah.
that like you can't sub out the liquor. You can't be like, but use better liquor.
Mm-hmm,
We
mm-hmm,
don't allow that at our restaurant. Or like we depending, like somebody might, but you're gonna be paying a lot, you know. We So what we do is we take all the ingredients, at least as many as are non-perishable,
mm-hmm,
and we put them and then we pre-batch them in a bottle, and it's like I know I need to add this much of this and this much of that, and then anyway,
mm-hmm,
so it's just nice and easy system. So nothing is terribly hard. It's just when you go off menu or you get really specific about something, and then it's like now all of a sudden this is like there was a lady the other day. She first of all like martinis are one of those where it's like I hate making them only because first of all like they're a little bit time consuming to make.
mm-hmm,
But it's also there's so many different variations, and I'm just like, what do you want? You know, like
mm-hmm,
so typical is like, but a server will just ring in martini. I'm like, did they want vodka or gin? And then they're like, oh yeah, gin. I'm like, you should put gin in the note then.
mm-hmm,
And then it's like, and then so a typical martini is 2 ounces of either vodka or gin and 1 ounce of dry vermouth.
mm-hmm,
But people want it dirty, which means add olive juice, right? Or people are like, they want it extra dry, which means they don't want any vermouth. They just want 2 ounces of chilled gin.
mm-hmm,
Maybe some olive juice, whatever. And I think martini's good, but it's one of those that one peeves me when it comes in. But everything else, like because there's so many different ways. Is it shaken? Is it stirred? Do you want a lemon twist? Do you want olives? Like what do you want? Like it's one of those like there's a million follow-up questions. And unless I like if it's a guest, if it's a ticket that gets rang in for me to make from
mm-hmm.
a server, I don't know what to do. Like I'm gonna make what they rang in, and then I'm probably gonna have to remake it. There was a lady the other day. She wanted a Grey Goose martini. She wanted extra dry,
Mm-hmm.
which means no vermouth, but she meant she wanted a drier vermouth, but we only carry one dry vermouth. And she wanted like the ticket made no sense because she was like, yeah, like extra dry, and then she like olive juice, and then so it somehow it was like six modifiers, and I was like, I hate that lady, you know. Especially like we weren't that busy, so it was fine to make, but it was just like really that's crazy. So my favorite drink to make is a drink that is actually like it's not pre-batched, it's not anything, but it's simple. It's a variation of a Moscow Mule, which is
Okay.
just vodka, lime juice, and ginger beer. But
Mm-hmm.
this one we use is it's called the cucumber elderflower mule.
Okay.
So you take cucumber flavored vodka. The brand we use is called Effen, EFFEN.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it's 1.5 ounces of that, and then a half ounce of Saint Germain, which is an elderflower liqueur, and some of the most delicious stuff you can get your hands on. So it's just those two, and then I think half ounce of lime juice, and then you add that to the tin, and then you top it off with ginger beer and garnish with the cucumber. So
Mm-hmm.
it's this light and refreshing, right? The ginger beer is like a little bit spicy, but it's typically light and refreshing. Most Moscow mules are. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of the ones we have are very like sweet, because that's our what our people like. But yeah, it's this bright, refreshing. The cucumber flavors like come out. It's like this very earthy flavor from the elderflower. It's this like earthy elderflower,
Mm-hmm.
really bright. I could drink 10 of them in a row. I love making it because it's not on our menu anymore. So when people are like, I just don't know what I want, I'm like, you stay right there. I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna bring you this, and if you have any regrets, like I'll drink it, you know? But I've never had anybody tell me, "Oh, no, I don't like that."
Mm-hmm.
Everybody has always been like, "This is insanely good." I'm like, "Right?" So I love making that one because you can really make somebody's day when you do something like that.
Did you say cucumber flavored vodka?
Yeah.
I don't think I ever heard of that. Like, I don't know if it's because I don't really drink anymore, or is it because like we don't have it here in the UK. I don't think I ever heard. Like, I've
I
seen some
mean,
flavors, obviously, of vodka, but I don't think I I don't think we sell here cucumber flavored vodka. I was like, what?
Yeah, I mean, like I don't know if it's just an American thing or not, but we have flavored everything.
Mm-hmm.
Typically not gin. I think there's just one. It's there's getting a little bit more now, but there's like at least in terms of like widespread, there's like a blood orange flavored gin,
Yeah.
which is really popular. But other than that, it's just typically your like London Dries, your
Mm-hmm.
Plymouth and your Tanqueray and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um,
No,
Hendrix, which is the elderflower one. But
yeah. Like we have a lot of like
um,
stable flavored alcohol here, don't get me wrong, but I don't
oh yeah.
think, yeah, like vodka, gin, all of it. Like I don't think I ever seen vodka that's cucumber flavor. I think I would have remember that.
I think I've seen maybe two different brands.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, there's like pepper flavored vodka, there's cherry, there's mango, pineapple,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
sweet tea flavored vodka.
Yeah.
There's you could if you ca I would be really curious actually to take you to an American liquor store just to see. I mean, I know you say you don't drink much, but like I
Mm-hmm.
just want to see like because sometimes I wander just because I'm like, what on earth are these crazy scientists doing? I'll try to walk down a new aisle, and I'll
Mm-hmm.
go like, there was this rep that came in, that was trying to get us to carry some of their products, and this was at the restaurant that I worked to prior, and they make moonshine, but then they make flavored moonshines and really sweet
Oh.
moonshines, and I got to try them, and they had like a sweet tea flavored moonshine that was killer, and a punch flavored moonshine that you couldn't even taste the alcohol in. It's great, but the best thing they had was they had these like moonshine creams,
Mm-hmm.
so it's got the consistency of like it's like a little thicker than milk.
So it's like a cream
So
almost?
yeah, so like a yeah, like a heavy cream or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it comes down and it's smooth and you can't even taste the alcohol. There's no burn to it because it's in the cream. But it's high in alcohol and the flavor, like they have the butter pecan flavored one. And it's just incredible. It's essentially like drinking coffee creamer or like heavy whipping cream that's butter pecan flavored that if you drink enough of it, it's gonna get you tipsy. It's delicious.
I don't know
So like
why, but this just screams American to me.
yeah, that absolutely, and that's fine. But yeah, there's a lot that's I think people are like, oh, there's a crazy scientist somewhere doing something, or like especially like with a lot of the beers that we taste,
Mm-hmm.
or that we get in. Man, beer flavors are out of this world because you're like, oh, I don't know that I want that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really good. There's this place in North Dakota, this brewery called Drecker, and we have one of their beers on right now, and it's a lemon meringue sour, and it's so good. Yeah, there's lots of things you're like, I don't know about that, and you try it, and you're like, that's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
We carried this beer on tap as a technically a sour, but it wasn't very sour, but it tasted like the top of a creme brulee. It was so good. I
Oh,
loved
like
it.
craft beer is a thing here where I live. There's quite a
Hmm.
few craft breweries, and yes, I've seen some insane flavors like raspberry one. Like yeah, like
Hmm.
I'm pretty sure there was some like a cheesecake one, and I was
Oh
like,
yeah.
okay, I guess people enjoy it.
They're
So
really
yeah.
good, actually. A lot of times, yeah. A lot of times the weirdest ones are the ones that pay off the most. But we carried like a pickle flavored beer, and it was like it was actually like I was like interesting. I would like to try that, and I tried it. I'm like that's terrible. It doesn't taste like pickle at all. It just like they made a light beer and threw a bunch of dillweed in it. Yeah.
Oh,
No
oh,
pickle flavor, just dill. It's fine, but I want pickle flavor.
that's pickle flavor beer. Okay.
Yeah. No, the cucumber vodka is yeah. I'm sure you can find it. If not, then you just buy a bottle of regular vodka and you throw a cucumber,
No,
you
of
slice it
course
up
not.
and throw it in there and let it sit for a week, and you got cucumber flavored vodka.
No, of course not. It's a bit more complicated than that, I would imagine.
Yeah, when they make it, yeah. But I'm like, if you don't have it anywhere near you, or if you're like, I've got this bottle I've been trying to kill, go get yourself a bottle of Saint Germain and
Mhm.
put some cucumbers in your and make a mule out of it. It's great.
All right, maybe I will. Next time, I'll suggest it to my girlfriend. We'll see how that goes.
Oh yeah.
But with that, we can move on to a little game called this or that. It's quite simple. Yeah, I'll give you two options, and you tell me which one would you prefer.
Hmm.
And it goes from anything, from not so serious to maybe a bit philosophical. So let's see what we get.
Let's do it. I'm ready.
All right. So big party or small gathering?
Um, I think it depends on the context, but for me, I'm an overthinker on these kind of things. I'll say small gathering. I like big parties. I like weddings and
Hmm. Hmm.
things like that. Massive, 50-year anniversary parties for people where people fly from all over the country, family reunions, things like that. But
Hmm.
But there's just something about texting 5 or 6 people and saying, "Hey, we're going to this brewery. You want
Yeah.
to come or don't, and
Hmm.
or like let's go golfing or something." Yeah, like there's something about yeah.
That's fair. So what about iOS or Android?
I have an Android. I have a Galaxy Z Fold 5, so I have the like foldable phone
Oh,
that
how does that
opens up and doubles its screen.
how is that
Uh,
working out for you?
It's awesome. Yeah, so like it's my normal
Hmm.
standard-ish size, a little thin, and then it just like completely opens up and it's
Yeah.
killer. I love it.
Nice. So
And it's
you're
super
team
functional,
Android.
especially I'm team Android all the way. I
Okay.
was telling somebody about it last night because like I didn't know they had them. I'm like, yeah, and Galaxy has one and Google has one and um LG has one, and in 5 years Apple will have one and say they're the first to do it. So
And there's a brand, my brand is OnePlus, and OnePlus just
yeah,
released one, and
yeah, yeah,
that's rated very well.
yeah. They're getting to the point that they're starting to be good across the board. They're just
Hmm.
expensive.
No, my OnePlus is a killer, and I don't have the foldable one, but it's just the battery life is insane on that. I love it. But anyway, honesty or other people's feelings.
I veer on the side of always be truthful regardless of the outcome because if it gets out that you lied, it's a lot more difficult. It's a lot more painful. So regardless of the outcome, regardless of how much it hurts, just be honest.
I respect that. Tea or coffee?
Tea, but American version of tea where we put a lot of sugar in it.
Ah,
My mom is from Virginia, so sweet tea is very like my mom was from Virginia, but she drinks unsweetened tea. But every time
mhm.
we go there, it's just like that's nectar from the gods, sweet tea from South Carolina.
Okay, I know sweet tea is a thing, but can you explain it to me? So you just brew a tea and then you put a lot of sugar in it and that's it.
So kind of, yeah. I mean, a lot of places like will have specifically like specific tea leaves that have been like bioengineered to be like a sweeter leaf
Oh,
or to get like more of a like it's just like a straightforward flavor but it's gonna like be better when you mix it with sugar so like but in general yeah you take black unflavored tea and you brew it right you distill it the same way you would
hmm.
and or steep it I guess is the right word not distill steep it. Except you do it, you make your tea however you do, but especially like in here, I don't know, like some people will still do it individual bag by bag, but a lot of times
Hmm.
here, like we'll just buy like big bulky store boughts and you make a half gallon at a time, right?
Hmm.
And you just like let the tea bag sit there overnight, and in the morning you got tea. And then yeah, you add, I would say to a half gallon, you add probably like a cup and a half of sugar and then you mix it. It's a lot. It's a
Jesus
lot of
Christ.
sugar. But yeah,
Okay.
it's I mean it's no different than adding, two
Hmm.
tablespoons of honey to your cereal, except you don't get the honey flavor, but
Yeah.
yeah. No, it's yeah, and you serve it over ice and typically garnish with a lemon and there's nothing better to drink right after mowing the lawn in the summer.
Okay. That's a very specific recommendation, but I'll remember that.
Mhm.
I'll
Yeah.
remember. So, money or free time?
Oh boy. Like here's the thing, I want to say money or I want to
Hmm.
say free time, but I
Hmm.
think the answer is money because and I think it's just the stage I'm at in life, right? Like
Hmm.
I have to pay the bills, right?
Yes.
And I do get a good amount of free time, but like I'm sitting there thinking like I would love to say free time, but
Hmm.
I have the way my job works, I have the opportunity to turn down shifts at any given time
Hmm.
and just be like, does somebody else want this shift? Which is essentially saying, does anybody else want my money? Like, and it just means I get less. So I would like, I get enough free time right now. I would like more money, to be able to make sure that I'm more set off for the future.
That's fair. That's fair.
So it's probably the wrong answer, but whatever. At least at this moment right now, I would like to
Hmm.
build up my savings more than I would a little bit extra free time.
Yeah, there's no wrong or right. It's all about you. So,
Yeah,
no,
I
that's
know.
fair. That's fair. Here's a tricky one. Ninjas or pirates?
Oh boy.
Hmm?
You're right, that's super tricky. Man, this is insane because it's like I'll
And you
say
can,
pirates.
okay, okay.
And here's why. Because I take this not as who do you have to fight, but who do you get
Hmm.
to join.
Yes. You
Or
can
who
take
would
it
you
any
rather
way you
hang out
want.
with? Yeah.
No, yeah, you can take it any way you want. So pirates
And
for you.
like ninjas are like stern and serious, unless they're also turtles. But they're like stern and serious, lots of
Hmm.
training, lots of focus. And pirates are just like, I'm gonna get drunk and throw swords at people. And it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, I want to hang out with those guys as long as
Hmm.
I'm not getting the swords thrown at me. So yeah.
Okay. Now,
Yeah, and I don't get seasick, so
oh, that's a plus if you want to
yeah.
be a pirate and if you want to chill with pirates. Free will or destiny?
Free will. Yeah, no, I'm a firm believer that people have free will, and I'm also a firm believer that people make the worst possible decisions in any given situation. Yeah, no, I don't. At the very least, I think that there is maybe like general outcomes on how things are supposed to be, but like in the grand scheme of things, not necessarily like micromanage stuff. So in that case, I'd say like free will. Yeah.
Okay. And the last one, either time travel twice or you can teleport infinite times.
Oh boy. I'm gonna say teleport, and here's the kicker, right? Like
Hmm.
I was thinking about it. I was like, time traveling sounds fun. I'm gonna imagine the twice means two trips, not like go once and back is.
Again, anytime you want to interpret that question, that's up to you.
Uh-huh. But I think teleporting because like if I could make my work to commute or my
Hmm.
commute to work instantaneous as opposed to the 10-minute drive, I mean the 10 minutes each way that I'm just like
Hmm.
of my life that I get back, or like I could go to Chicago and see a Blackhawks game every single day that if I wanted to,
Yeah,
that they play. I could teleport myself inside the stadium and not pay for the ticket.
I was gonna say.
Um, that would be budget friendly.
Hmm.
I could I could go teleport right now. I live in Iowa, so like I get movies when the states get the movies. I could teleport to New York and go see Zone of Interest today, but it's not out for another month here. So like I like yeah, I could go hang out with Robert who lives halfway across the country.
Hmm.
And I've never met in person, but
Hmm.
has been arguably like one of my closest friends for the last 2 years. So
Hmm.
yeah, could do that. I also think here's the kicker to me.
Hmm.
In Iowa, we get snow all the time. This past week we got 14 inches of snow.
All right.
And so I don't like driving in the snow
Mm-hmm.
because it's hard to get off the roads and it's hard to keep off the roads. And so like my street that I live on is a sheet of ice right now. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm good with a teleporting, not having to worry about that anymore.
That's fine. And before we move to the movie part of the podcast, do you have any hottest or unpopular takes or opinions you would like to share?
Yeah, I'm gonna give two, I think. So my first is that I'll make my first one an alcohol-based one, and I'm sorry as to offend somebody who currently lives in Scotland, but whiskey is overrated.
Okay.
It's fine. I just don't like it's not for me, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
it's like I can't really tell the difference between different kinds of whiskeys unless there's like specifically meant to like Maker's Mark and Crown Royal and like other like big brands like all kind of taste the same to me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um Obviously Jack Daniel's tastes different because it's smoky, but that's all it's smoky Maker's Mark,
So when you say
and
whiskeys, just to clarify, when you say whiskeys, that was my first question.
Scotch and bourbon.
Have you ever tried any single malt whiskey?
Yeah, I
Okay.
have a bottle of 12 year and a bottle of 17-year Old Pulteney.
Old
Uh,
Putney is ace.
hmm
You don't like
uh,
that.
uh, and I have that was actually like I bought my 12 year when I was in Edinburgh,
Okay.
and then it went out, and then they sold it here in the States for like a year and a half. And I don't know, it just must have not sold well. I don't because I can't find it anymore, but I used to have it at my alcohol street store down the
Okay.
street. And that's where I got a bottle of 17-year in St. Louis. I paid like $100 for it. It was not cheap.
And then
Um,
neither of those are to your taste.
they're fine,
Okay.
right? They're just not what I would particularly reach for, you know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And maybe I'm just not drinking it right. Like I'm like to me, like Scotch is supposed to be drank neat, but I think more and more people are saying no, like a splash of water. And it's like, okay, I guess. So I don't know, but I've tried like certain cocktails with Scotch. I actually found one I really liked. It was like it was like a scotch and like you muddle some strawberries, add some scotch and a little bit of lemon juice, and then like a couple fresh sprigs of thyme in there. That was
Hmm.
delicious. And
Hmm.
then some club soda or soda water, something like that. It was really good. So I mean, in America, it's mostly bourbon.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but I think that like bourbon is bourbon and it's all fine and it's all
Hmm.
overrated. You know, it's fine.
Hmm.
It shouldn't it just pains me when like bourbon is I think the most popular vodka and vodka is also really popular and so
Hmm.
is tequila. But I would say whiskey is the most popular in the States and
Hmm.
just sucks because gin is the best. I love like my favorite cocktail is just like if I'm gonna make something at home, it's just a gin and tonic,
Hmm.
a little bit of lime juice, and about a half an ounce of Aperol. It's just perfect.
So, all right. So therefore, you're not really drinking the gin. It's almost like you're advocating for a gin, but it's also you're advocating more for a cocktail, if I'm reading you correctly. You
I'm not
can.
gonna do shots of gin, you know.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Because, like, so you're drinking neat whiskey. That's kind of strong. And as you said, it's an acquired taste. There's like different regions again, I'm not an expert. I do live here, but I'm not
Sure,
an expert.
sure.
So there are different regions, right? I don't know if you ever heard of
Oh, I have
Laga.
a bottle of Lefroy. That's the other one I have.
Oh, that's, if I'm not mistaken, it's quite peaty. It's quite
Yeah,
smoky.
yeah. But I
That's,
like the smoky.
here we go.
Hmm.
So see, here we go. So now I would not recommend you to go for Old Putney. I would recommend you to go for like a Lagavulin. That would be
I've had
more.
Lagavulin before.
Did you
Yeah.
like it?
It's fine.
All right.
I thought it was good, but it's expensive.
Yes, it is.
And I don't think it was good enough for me to justify like I had it once at a restaurant
Mm-hmm.
and I know like I think it was a Lagavulin 17 which is like a $300 bottle and I was like I'm definitely not or maybe it was maybe either way it was like at least $100 bottle and it was one of
Mm-hmm.
those that like me and my wife we went to this restaurant we got a gift card and we looked at their menu and we're like nothing sounds interesting and
Mm-hmm.
it was a big gift card. It was like $100, and so we were clearly not going to get pretty close. We were gonna everything was wickedly expensive in small portions and not great. It was just we would never go back there. So I was like, you know what? Let's just use up this gift card. Can I please buy this $26 pour of whiskey?
Mm-hmm.
Because I would like to try it. And so we did. And I was like, it's fine. It's not worth $26, but it's good. I like the Lagavulin. I
Funny
lo-
enough, I'm not really a fan of smoky whiskey, so we kind of differ there. However, one of my favorites is actually Old Put-in-It, but there's a smoky like a like a, yeah, they did called Hadder. It's basically what they do is it's imagine the 12-year-old Old Put-in-It, and
okay.
it matures in a peaty cask for last like 2 or 3 years. So it's not in that peaty cask for all its life, but it's just for a tiny bit, and it gets
Okay.
this like a smoky, peaty like hint of it. Me really despising peaty whiskeys because they are not my taste. This is my favorite. Like this is like you get that crisp like whiskey flavor, but also the hint of peatiness, and it's just hits right.
See, yeah, I think Scotch is one of those. I think I'm more likely to like Scotch than I am bourbon, but
Mm-hmm.
which is odd because I very much have a sweet tooth.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it's like it kind of even in your like cocktail, it's like I said, I'm not doing shots of gin. 'Cause
Mm-hmm.
only psychopaths do that. I would take a gin and tonic every single day over an old fashioned.
That's
10 out of
fine.
10 times. Like that's the thing. So yeah, I don't like any spirit neat unless it's the like really sweet stuff already
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
like a cognac or like a I have a bottle of it's called Hypnotic and it's like French like cream liqueur like it's really good but it's really sweet. Just
Mm-hmm.
do an ounce over a rock.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I don't know. I think it, I've actually been working. I want to bring down my whiskey selection. I'm trying to get rid of some bottles because it just yeah. But I'm not getting rid of the Scotch. And I think having the Polton and the Lefroy kind of gives me like oh I've kind of got a range.
Mm-hmm. No, that's
Um,
fine. And again, like, look, I only drink casually with friends in the sense that if
mhm.
somebody comes over and they want to have a drink, I'll drink with them. Otherwise, I do not touch it.
Yeah.
So, like, I have like 9 bottles ready. If anybody would come to my house, I have selection.
I'll tell you
And
what, next time I'm in Scotland, I'll come and I'll try some
all right.
scotch.
Yeah, I have Balvenie 14-year-old. It's like a Caribbean cask,
Yeah, yeah.
finish in a rum like in drum casks. Quite nice. Yeah.
I have the Balvenie the 12-year sherry cask.
The 12 is decent. Yeah, the 12 is nice. It's a great like starting whiskey. It's the same
Yeah,
as Old Putney. It's like those are like what my ex-colleague from my previous work referred to as starting whiskeys.
sure.
And that's where but he even said whiskey is an acquired taste. You really either like it or you don't. So that's really
It's
it.
fine. It's just it's not worth all the hype, you know. It's I got I our restaurant got our hands on a bottle of Blanton's, which is really like
Hmm.
expensive and hard to find right now. And I
Hmm.
tried it. I'm like, it's fine. I like if it was the same price as Jack Daniel's or something, okay, but it's not worth. I'm not gonna pay this much, especially like if I found a bottle, you know.
Hmm.
Like
Hmm.
there's so much I don't know if you guys have this problem as much or maybe it's more some but like for allocated whiskeys like
Hmm.
to try to find a bottle of Pappy Van Winkle is like really hard in the States.
Okay.
Or like Colonel E.H. Taylor or Eagle Rare Small Batch Select or whatnot. Like a lot of these really hard to find whiskeys that when you do find them, they're going to cost you an arm and a leg,
Yes.
not because they're worth that, but because of supply and demand, you know.
Yes.
The exception is Buffalo Trace, which is really hard to find, and when you get it, you can still get it for $30 a bottle. So that's great.
I'm
Um,
sure we sell Buffalo Trace here in almost every supermarket.
Buffalo Trace is really hard to find right now
Okay.
in the States. And it's because people have called it like the best affordable whiskey for so long
Uh,
that everybody's like, I want something better than Jack Daniel's. Cool.
hmm.
So then the problem is when people find Buffalo Trace, they
Hmm.
buy the entire store's lot. So I
Uh,
have two bottles at home right now because I was at a liquor store downtown when there was no college students there.
hmm.
So they had everything because nobody goes downtown in
Hmm.
that month. So yeah, and they were $30 a bottle. It's like, shoot, yeah, I'll give me two. But they also had Blanton's, and and I asked how much is it, and he said 160. I said, you don't even touch that because if you break, I'm not paying. Like I am not interested.
That's fair.
Because Blanton's is the one from John Wick with the little like horse
Oh,
on the top. So
I
John Wick
see.
really blew that one up. Anyway, it's just yeah, I have the Belvedere 12-year the sherry cask finish one. It's really
Hmm.
good. I like it.
Yeah, it's quite nice. It's quite nice. So you mentioned you have a second hot take?
Yeah, you know what? I figured we were talking a little bit about this earlier. I figured I'd go ahead. I could say something.
All right.
I have a bachelor's degree in youth and family ministry, and I have a master's degree in Christian spiritual formation.
Mm-hmm.
And so I like I said, in my current job as a bartender, so I don't work in that field at the moment, although I like to
Mm-hmm.
think I still kind of do, just I don't have church office hours or whatever. I would say that I think that there's this really awful trend in America right now where people tend to vote based off of their religious beliefs and think that you can't vote the other way because of whatever. And I think that I am 100% as a person with a master's degree in Bible stuff saying separation of church and state is remarkably important. And I think that we need to actually like completely reevaluate how we process that stuff as Americans, because I think that I think that there should be a separation of what I might personally believe versus what should be enforced by the government, and that's where I think the disconnect is because like I think there's people that are like I think it's the political people have gotten really smart about manipulate. They realized if we could just get the church people on our side
Mm-hmm.
then we have everybody. And if we get these people to be like standing up for traditional Christian values
Yes.
in government, even though it seems to be the Republicans that are typically the most like scandalous, right? Affairs and illegitimate
Well,
children, all
Donald
that.
Trump,
Or yeah,
we don't need
just
to say much more.
horrible people. Yeah. So I think that there's actually like they were really smart in corralling that crowd and they got
Mm-hmm.
to the point where now it's like, I think that especially the older generation, like if they found out the way that you vote, then they at least the way that I vote, they would scold me and call me not a Christian and
Hmm.
and whatnot. And it's like, well, I think that we can share the same values. It's just what I want to impose on other people, and I'm very against anybody imposing their own values on other people unless it's universal truth. Like, hey, killing people is bad. We can all agree killing people is bad. So that's a universal truth to me. That's or
Hmm.
that's like or other things that's like, hey, theft probably should be punished, like
Hmm.
not severely, not the whole like
Cut off
arm
your
for an arm
hand.
or whatever,
Yeah.
yeah, but you should have a fine, or speed limits are posted, so follow it, right? Whatnot. So I feel like there should be a like there should be things that are enforced, but aside from that, like I think a really good example is I think it's just the best way to say it, but
Hmm.
like I would say I am personally very pro-life, meaning I don't condone the act of abortion, and unless it would harm a life, like unless it would
Like
be
actually kill a baby, basically.
or kill the mother, and then I
Yes.
and then I
Yeah.
think and then I think that's entirely that's an asterisk, so
Yes.
that doesn't count, right?
Hmm.
But I vote the opposite way because the way I believe does not necessarily have to be like I do not want the way that I believe to be enforced upon you because
Hmm.
you have different context entirely of growing up. And even if you were in the States, like you have a completely different way of living and a completely different lifestyle. And that's all cool to me. And I don't expect anybody to push any beliefs on anybody. And so that's why I think that like while I am personally like I think the way I described it is I think if somebody came up to me advice saying, should I have this procedure done, I would say, and first of all, also, I'm a man. I don't get a
Hmm.
vote in the conversation. Like
Hmm.
that's plain and done. It is
Hmm.
not my call. But I think if somebody were to ask me to advise, I'd say I cannot morally condone that you get this done. It's but like, and I
Hmm.
and I, I realize that like my go-to has always been like there are options. You can give it up for adoption or foster care or whatnot.
Hmm.
Like there's options. Well, can't give it to foster care. But like you can give it to adoption or try to find a surrogate parent. Like there's plenty of different ways that you don't have to have that responsibility. It's to me it's one of those like if you didn't want the child, you should have taken preventative measures.
Hmm.
Especially since it's also easily accessed at this point. But
Even
the
though, again, like, there's a special cases like
yes,
rape and all
absolutely.
that
Yes,
stuff.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But I think that I would say that I don't think I could ever condone, give somebody permission to do it just because they don't want to have a baby.
Hmm.
But I do not want to take away a person's right to make that choice. So I think that's like about the easiest way for me to sum up my feelings. Like
Hmm.
I can still have similar values and feelings and whatnot. And again, I am a guy, so that particular it's I don't get to make that call.
Yeah.
But I think I don't think it's our job to
Hmm.
religious or non-religious or
Hmm.
whatever to enforce how people should live, I think. You know.
Yeah. You mentioned separation of state and church, right?
Uh-huh.
So correct me if I'm wrong because I am not an American, but isn't it
Yep.
kind of in the constitution of your constitution as
Yes.
well?
Yes, it is.
So, and to me, that's what I find fascinating about this debate we're having right now, and obviously most of America is having right now, is like
Yes.
the Republicans are like, no, we like by the rule of God and God this and God that. And I'm like, and they, often use the Constitution and the founding fathers and all that. And I'm like,
Yep.
but but it's literally right there. It's they said it. They said it. They did it several times. It's
And
what.
also there's an argument that's a complete lie just going around saying that America was founded on Christian values. And no, it absolutely was not. The founding fathers were actually like a lot of times not great people and
Hmm.
certainly not Christians or at least Christians in the way that
Hmm.
a lot of them were deists
Hmm.
instead of theists. Or yeah, it's it also wasn't based off of Christian values. It was based off of freedom from Britain. Like that's what it was really
Yes.
based off of, like
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yep.
no, it's you're right. There is separation of church and state is in the Constitution, and yeah, it's I think that has probably different connotations throughout the years. That's why, we make amendments and,
Hmm. Hmm.
eventually I think should just redo the Constitution. But because at that point you got a million amendments and, there's certainly some things about slavery in the
Mm,
Constitution. It's like maybe we should just start from scratch again. But
possible. But imagine
yeah,
how that conversation would go right now
no,
if
it wouldn't
somebody,
happen. Wouldn't be approved.
stepped up and said, "Hey, let's rewrite the entire Constitution."
Yeah.
And if he or she was a Democrat, the first, Republicans would go apeshit. But if they were
Yep.
Republicans, the other
Yep.
side would go apeshit. So it's like, oof, who would
Yep.
you trust with that task to, let's start over, and I'm the person to do it. Who would you trust with that task?
Nobody.
That's the thing,
Not a
isn't
single
it?
person right now. Yeah.
It
I
would,
would trust let's see who seems like good enough people. Ryan Gosling and John Goodman and Tom Hanks. Tom Hanks for sure.
mm, like as much
Um
as I would like to trust that they would make all the correct decisions. I won't.
yeah, absolutely.
This is where we differ. I'm not guided by my faith, so like I'm guided by my logic, and I'm like, but they are actors. They shouldn't be writing.
Yeah, I
Like
know. I
they
know. I
might
know.
be
I
great
know.
people. They might not, but I know that's not your point.
That's just me being
Just being cheeky.
satirical.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, no. They're like, I from what I see, John Goodman is a great person. Ryan Gosling is a great person. Tom Hanks is a great person. But like even then there's a very weird power dynamic with that kind of important document, and that's gonna rule
Yeah.
pretty much the
Yeah.
entire United States
Absolutely.
of America. I'm like, ooh.
Yeah, I
No,
just
but mhm,
yeah, it's all my main hot take I think is that I think that your religion should religion or lack thereof or whatever should influence the way that you think, but I don't think it should
mhm.
influence your I think it should influence personal politics, but not like nationwide scale.
Do you think it's possible? Do you? And here's my kind of point, I guess. If you're a religious person, right?
Hmm.
And again, you need to school me here because I'm not. So like I'm just making an assumption, right? But if
Yeah.
I'm a religious person, and doesn't matter if I am Christian, if I'm, Islam, Buddha, whatever, doesn't matter. To me, I still have that filter on, even if I try not to. So that's almost like, for lack of a better word, a bias. So no matter what decision I'll make, I'll still have to kind of sift it through that bias to an extent. Even though, like, I know we can compartmentalize the word I'm cannot pronounce. The people try to very hard to distinguish between this and that. But, like to me, this is where the cookie crumbles. Many times people would love to think, oh yeah, I can do that. And then they get into that situation and like, but my faith, I don't know if I could sleep with myself because my faith doesn't tells me this is wrong, even though I know it might not be wrong, but it's the faith, man. So, can you actually, as a religious person, separate those two if you get into like position of power?
No, I mean, look, again, this is like, I think it's a hot take because
Mm-hmm.
like it's the way that I think and it's not the
Mm-hmm.
norm. But like, I wish that it was.
Mm-hmm.
I wish that we could have, unbiased takes on the way that things should
Mm-hmm.
be done. And I wish we could simply just see that like I like I wish that we could simply see that at the end of the day, guns kill kids, and we need
Mm-hmm.
to do whatever we can to stop that, right? And
Mm-hmm.
um, you know, um, but I'm also like, I don't want to take everybody's guns away, just the ones that kill kids quicker,
Mm-hmm.
like and if we also, had better government funding for things like homelessness and poverty and
Or
um
healthcare.
healthcare for sure and even things like daycares, right? And even things with like the adoption system, more government funding to those places, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's a hot take because it's like I can separate that and I can compartmentalize, and that's why I can confidently, vote the way that I vote, at least for
Mm-hmm.
now. We'll see. Like I think like I think it would just depend, right? And it's just felt like there's been such a big shift, and it's like I just want somebody that feels kind of moderate, kind of in the middle, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
all for that person, but we've gotten to two extremes, and
Yep.
to me, it's like it's one or the other, and I don't entirely agree. I don't
And
know how I'm voting in this coming election just yet, but
mhm.
not a big fan of anybody that's been announced so far. I think I can absolutely I can do it. I can compartmentalize, but no, I don't think most people can because I think if we could, we would have. But I'm also a cynic. I'm a skeptic. I don't see any like good future for us.
I think we
So
are on the same page there. I'm also a bit cynic myself. So,
yeah.
and just to show my cards here, like I cannot really. Well, I'm not laughing at you, but like I cannot really laugh at the United States as much because as much as we like to pretend the UK has more parties, it's really just two,
Yeah.
really. So if if there's a general election, you would voting for Labour or Tories, Conservatives. That's really it.
Yeah.
Like there are like sure there are like more like four other big parties. Yes. Do they have any power? No.
Yeah.
Like they pretty much like they would have something massive would have to happen for them to actually have any real power.
Hmm.
So I think we are slowly coming to the side where we kind of only have two options as well, like in upcoming elections, and that's kind of not great. It's just,
It's
but hey, since let's move to the movie part before we dump
Yeah,
on
yeah, yeah. It's
everybody.
no,
The
but I
oh,
appreciate like being able to have that
mhm.
discussion, and yeah,
And
I think I think everybody says the two things you don't talk about are politics or religion. I personally believe that the biggest injustice that has happened is specifically church leaders not speaking out against injustice
mhm.
the last couple of years.
Eh,
I would love to have heard somebody from the pulpit call Donald Trump evil,
mhm.
because he is.
Well,
So anyway,
they've tried, and they've been excluded from the Republican Party. Hey,
right.
so,
Yeah.
and it's not a cult at all. No, no, it's not a cult, not a cult.
No, no,
Anyway, move
definitely
on.
not.
Let's move on. So let's move to the Flix part of the podcast.
Yeah, yeah,
This
yeah.
is our bread and
We
butter.
can talk about movies.
This is where we are such a scholarly, brains, both of us.
Yeah.
So, Aaron, what
Hmm.
is the last new movie you rated 5 out of 5? And just to clarify, new movie, any 2020 past movie. So 2020, onwards.
I gave five movies this year a 5-star rating. Five from 2023. Six if you count like a first watch that released in 2020. And I haven't looked on my there was one, two, three from 2022 and
Mm-hmm.
two from 2020 and I think just one from 2021. Anyway,
So what's the
um
last or the best or your favorite, out of those you rated 5 out of 5?
I think I want to go with the most interesting. Yeah, none of those are surprising. That one, surprising, not surprised. Okay, I'm gonna go with my only 5 out of 5 first watch
Okay.
from last year, and that is a movie from 2020 starring Adrian Brody called The Kid Detective. Yeah, it's just like it was so underseen because of COVID, and even
Mm-hmm.
then I think this was always like supposed to be a little kind of indie project that maybe they were hoping word of mouth might get some good
Mm-hmm.
distribution. So, I want to do my part because I think it's well known on the internet that The Nice Guys is my favorite movie of all time, and this is a way more serious than The Nice Guys. But it does have a lot of humor, a lot of it. It's got maybe my final shot from a movie of the last 10 years, and it's got an excellent performance by Adrian Brody. It's remarkably funny, and it's really serious, it's really weighty, and
Mm-hmm.
I adored this movie the first time I watched it, and I haven't gotten around to rewatching it yet, but I've certainly thought about it a number of times.
No, yeah, I've watched it last year based on Foster's recommendation, if I'm not mistaken, because he was the one talking about it, or promo hyping it up, and yeah, loved it. Well, I didn't love it as much as you guys, but like
Hmm.
the more I thought about it, the more I'm like, this is very fucking clever. So I
Yeah.
would not be surprised if I were to rewatch it, it would hit home even more. No, that's a great choice.
Oh yeah.
So, what was the last teen movie you would rate 5 out of 5? And for just to clarify again, teen, we don't mean just the teen genre. We mean anything between 2003 and 2019.
2003 and 2019.
All right?
Last movie? 2019 counts?
Yes. Yes, it does.
All right. Yep. You know what? Let's just say Knives Out.
Of course.
I saw it in theaters, but again, like I'd be really hard pressed to find the last time I saw a five-star movie from that era.
Hmm.
That wasn't, at the time of release. But I'm gonna say Knives Out specifically because I love this movie so much. It is my second favorite movie of all time. It has continually grown up my list.
Hmm. I've only watched
So
it twice, but yeah, each time it got better the second time. So I would imagine third time it'll get even better.
yeah,
I think it's,
I've probably seen it 10 times.
well, of course. I'm not shocked. But to be fair, like it's a great movie to even for a rewatch. It's not it's it's funny, it's charming. There's a mystery if and obviously if you've seen it once, you know the mystery, but no, it's an easy watch, but it's also compelling watch. It's a great one.
Yeah.
Just yeah,
And I
kind
have
of
a
funny.
lot from this decade that I gave 5 out of 5.
All right.
So yeah.
All right. So what about some adult movies? So anything between 2002 and 1975. We go all the way back to 75.
I think I know my answer. I just gotta make sure was because we talked about this one on the Sif Pop Writers Room on the Goats episode.
Let's hear it.
88 counts.
Yes.
Probably the last one that I gave a 5 out of 5 was yeah, because I've only ever done three on that podcast.
Hmm.
Cinema Paradiso.
Oh,
It is worth all the hype
yes.
and better actually.
It's such a great entry to a foreign movie, like foreign cinema, to like,
Hmm.
for especially for people who are maybe afraid, maybe don't want to watch foreign movies for whatever reason. But I think it's a great, like when I watched the first time, I was like 15, I want to say 15, 16. So yeah, I was starting out as well with movies, and I've loved it. It just hits you right, and it's
I
so
think
great.
I think it's a movie that is meant for movie lovers. So
Yeah.
if you love movies and haven't seen it, like you perfect time to do it. But I think
Mhm.
anybody could watch it and love it. But I think it's really made for movie lovers.
But it's not inside, like it's not too much inside baseball. So it's exactly as you said, not just for movie lovers, because there are some movies for movie lovers that, like, I don't know, Hail Caesar. I think you would appreciate
Oh
any
yeah, yeah,
movie.
yeah.
I think, yeah, you can appreciate a movie as a comedy, but if you're a movie lover who knows a bit of Hollywood history, you get more jokes. You get, oh, they're referencing this guy in this scene, or they're referencing this quote that, was prevalent in Hollywood in 50s or 40s. So
Hmm.
there's more like kind of hidden jokes for the nerds and cinephiles, whereas Cinema Paradiso is more like the ultimate human story based on this just movie world. And talk about final scene,
Yep.
last 5 minutes. Ooh, so good.
Also, the maybe only movie where the theatrical cut is better than the director's.
Oh, I don't even know which one I've seen, to be honest. Okay.
The theatrical cut is the director's cut is about 40 minutes longer. And while I still liked it, it makes some decisions that I don't particularly like, such as there's a reunion scene between Toto and his love interest as adults before the final scene. And so
Hmm.
it essentially is a chunk of them reuniting after all these years. But I think it completely takes away from the movie. So if you haven't seen that, then you've seen the theatrical, which the theatrical is about 2 hours and it's better.
Hmm. I've seen it a long time ago, so like if I remember correctly, that rings a bell. So I might have seen the director's cut, and I did still
Because
love it.
because in
So,
the theatrical, it's just
mhm,
he misses her at the bus stop
mm,
and then that's it.
mhm.
They like never reconnect and we never see her again.
Ah, okay.
But in the director's cut, they meet up again when he goes back and visits the town that's, decimated.
Well, I guess that just calls for a rewatch on my part because I
Yeah,
definitely
just
need to rewatch it.
theatrical's better.
Oh,
Especially because like it has a lot more unanswered questions, which is fine. It's a
mhm,
lot more. It's
mhm.
movie was never intending to talk about, the resolution to their relationship.
Yeah. All right, I'll keep it on my mind. And what is the last old movie you rated 5 out of 5? So anything, 1974 and older.
It's between two. but I'm gonna go with this one because this one I for sure gave a 5 out of 5 at the time and think, but it's Akira Kurosawa's Ikiru. I was like, it's either that or maybe it was Arsenic and Old Lace, but
Hmm.
which also great, and I also have Rope kind of from that era, but I've seen Rope
All
um
excellent.
a while ago.
Ikiru is
Ikiru,
one I need to rewatch because I watched it too young. You might see my rating there. So this rating is from like 16 years ago when I seen it when I was about 15, maybe something like that, 15, 16. So I was not mentally ready.
I think it's really excellently done, and it's beautifully crafted, and it'll just emotionally gut you. And yeah, I mean, I
Hmm.
think maybe it just also caught me at the right time.
Hmm.
But it's also one of those where it's like, oh yeah, the message is cherish life while it's there.
Yeah.
Oh, how original! It's just crafted so well because of course it is because it's Akira Kurosawa.
Yes. No, I need to, that's definitely on my like I need to rewatch this because I've definitely watched it a bit too young. Have you watched the remake, Living?
Not yet, but I've been really wanting to. I
Hmm.
hear it's nowhere near as good, but it still is pretty good, and
Hmm.
I'll watch that.
hmm No, I think I want to rewatch Ikiru and then watch the Living movie and just see how they compare. But I definitely need to rewatch Ikiru because it's been a while and I need to fix my opinion because I think I know I'll appreciate it much more now, actually having lived some life rather than being 15-year-old who thought he knows everything but he didn't.
Yeah.
So,
Again, it's like it's kind of one of those where it's like, oh yeah, the message is
hmm
cherish life while it's there. It's kind of like one of those like It's a Wonderful Life or
hmm
Tokyo Story, which I
hmm
recently watched was kind of so it's yeah you've seen people say that it's just portrayed so well.
And with Akira Kurosawa, his movies are never like straightforward in a sense that they don't really spell it out for you. Like I've just recently watched for the first time the Hidden Fortress, the Star Wars, pretty much, with the samurai. And if I were to watch this 10 years ago, I don't think I would have appreciated it as much as I appreciate it now because the movie kind of, again, just happens. And then towards the end, there are some scenes where like why did this happen? And then you need to think about why did this happen? And then you think
Yeah.
about the story, think about the characters, think about how they presented themselves and the themes, and you're like, oh, wait, now I get it. And like now, I appreciated it much more. If 20-year-old me watched that movie, it would be like, it's okay, a bit too boring, but it's okay. But now I'm like, no, that was a great movie. But speaking of great movies, what is your favorite movie decade?
I don't think it's recency bias to say that I think my favorite decade is the 2010s. Um,
Oh, unique. Let's go.
yeah, like I think my favorite movie year of all time is 1994. It's just incredible. Sure, I think it's fair to say that there was a lot of stinkers
Hmm.
in 19 or in the 2010s because
Hmm.
there's just more movies produced than there
Yeah.
ever were. But I think it's one of those from 2010 to 2019, that's kind of the qualifications, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Parasite,
Hmm.
uh, Knives Out, as mentioned, The Nice Guys, my favorite movie of all time.
Hmm.
Interstellar, La La Land, Whiplash is in my top four. Inception, the original Avengers, Avengers Infinity War, and Avengers Endgame all in this time frame. And Age of Ultron's pretty good too, but like
Yeah.
it's not anywhere
Yeah.
near the rest of the level. And so that means you also get all of the like best MCU stuff, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1 and 2 also in there, right? Jojo Rabbit's great. Arrival is maybe the best sci-fi movie of all time. So is
Awesome.
Blade Runner 2049. Inside Out is Pixar's best movie that came out in this time frame.
Mm.
Denis Villeneuve also came out with Prisoners. And so Arrival, Prisoners, and Blade Runner. What a decade for that guy. Ex Machina, it's got my favorite Star Wars movie, The Last Jedi, and Rogue One is also in that decade, and that's my third favorite. The Martian, Toy Story 3, About Time, which is the best rom-com, Big Hero 6, How to Train Your Dragon, the trilogy came out, or at least two of the three did, and it's incredible. The Cabin in the Woods, the Lego Movie, Edge of 17, Hacksaw Ridge, Mission Impossible Fallout, possibly the best action movie of all time.
Hmm.
The Paddington movies came out in this time. Moneyball, which is maybe the best biopic of all time. Spotlight, which also could be in that conversation. We
Raid and
got
Raid 2,
Raid and
speaking of
Raid
action,
2.
John Wick
Um, yeah, the first two
3.
John Wicks came out. First three, three, yeah,
I think
three.
the third one is 2019.
I
So
think
it
you're
would,
right. I think
yeah.
you're right. Yeah. Edge of Tomorrow, Looper, Pacific Rim, Argo is great. The Planet of the Apes trilogy. Yeah, I'm just looking. Pop Star Never Stop Never Stopping.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe like one of the best documentaries ever with the Won't You Be My Neighbor came out in this time.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite Batman animated film, Under the Red Hood, is in this decade. Into the Spider-Verse, Grand Budapest Hotel, Django Unchained, Social Network, Mad Max Fury Road, Dunkirk, Marriage Stories of that time. I love Marriage Story.
Yeah.
Logan, Zootopia, Sound of Metal, Hateful Eight. What else we got here? Easy A, Ford v Ferrari, Room, What We Do in the Shadows, Sicario, The Hunt, Creed,
Mm-hmm.
Game Night, Doctor Sleep,
No, there were
Hugo.
some
Like,
excellent movies
yeah,
this
like it's
decade.
just the more I go down, the more I'm like, I'm really convincing myself. Yeah, like I'm not. I'm sure you could do this with any, right? You go to the top and you go to the like
Yeah,
most
oh yeah.
popular, but I'm like it's such a wide variety as well. The Other Guys is one of my favorite comedies as
Mm-hmm.
well, right? And Death of Stalin is remarkably underseen,
That
and
is a great movie. I think
Happy
you
Death
might
Day to
be
You is really
right.
good. Right? Like,
I think you might be right. Like I think we are a bit too close still, but I think in about maybe 20 years or so, we will look back at 2010s and be like, we've had some shit, but also them highs were really high. And
yeah, I
again,
mean,
it's due to several factors, isn't it? Because we now know we're 120 years into the cinema, journey. So we now know what works, what doesn't work.
yeah,
We can experiment. There's, now 2010s, probably the first decade, pretty much anybody can make a movie because of YouTube, open up a lot of doors.
yeah.
So like now there's, we get talent from all over the world,
It was the
not
start
just
of streaming original movies, and now that's an insult. But at the time, it was like,
hmm
you know,
yeah.
almost like still kind of prestigious, right?
hmm So
And look, it's again, it's got its crap. It's got Ghost Rider: Spirit of Vengeance. It's got Human Centipede. It's got the Fantastic Beasts movies, at least the
yeah,
first two, and it's got X-Men Apocalypse and Cars 2 and Minions and Baywatch and Transformers: Age of Extinction. It's got crap in it.
yes.
Every decade has crap in it. I just think the highs really outweigh the lows. And specifically, I think it's got the highest highs. That's really what does it for me.
Again, yeah, I don't think yeah, I'm not gonna fight you. I don't think, yeah, because again, like there's a reason for that, but also it works. When it works, it works. And those movies, they will be like, Parasite will be a will be a classic. Arrival will be a sci-fi classic. It's
Yeah, absolutely.
those highs will be like, basically we're just waiting for them to reach certain level or certain age to be precise, and then we'll be like, yeah, that's a certified classic. But speaking of classics, speaking of movies, speaking of maybe takes, do you have any hot takes about a movie?
Of course
Cinematic
I
hot take.
do.
Let's go.
Of
Let's hear
course
them.
I do. Die Hard with a Vengeance is the best Die Hard.
Oh fuck, that's a all right. Well, okay. I'm not gonna talk. The floor is yours.
Look, I guess I should specify it's not the best, right?
Okay.
Clearly the original is the best made,
Okay.
but what I'm saying is I would rather watch Die Hard, like, and I love Die Hard, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I really like four. And
Mm-hmm.
two's fine. And five I will never watch again. But
No.
I would rather watch three times back to back to back than watch one again. And again, I love one. I think it's great. I would be happy to
Mm-hmm.
watch it, but I think there's something so fun about three. It's the addition of Samuel L. Jackson, who is just having his heyday, right? And it's and the way that he works with Bruce Willis, like even from the beginning where he's like, "Your name is Jesus," he's like, "No, my name is Zeus." He said, "Hey, Zeus," like the attitude he gives, the sass, the back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
The stakes are really raised in this one. It's fun, the Simon Says kind of game. Jeremy Irons is just chewing scenery. And look, I'll also mention, if you haven't seen, there's an alternate ending that every bone in my body wishes was the real ending.
Oh.
Because the real ending sucks, right? Like, it's
Mm-hmm.
fine. It's, he was in a helicopter and they shot it down. Woo,
What is the
the
alternative? What is
the
the
alter the
alternative?
alternative ending, which is at least available on most like DVDs and Blu-rays and special features, is that it's after Simon gets away
Mm-hmm.
with all the gold from Fort Knox, so he winds up like going to a secluded town and secluded
Mm-hmm.
bar, and John McClane walks in, essentially exposits about how he screwed over his whole team, including, the girl partner, and took all the money for himself, like it essentially exposits all of that. We
Mm-hmm.
get all that through context, and he's like, "Oh, and you're looking for you're pushing the button to alert your guards know that they need to come in. He's like, I already killed your guards, right? And it's just like it's this full of context. It's really intense. And then McClane gives this thing. He's holding a like a grenade launcher at at Simon's chest, and he tells him a riddle, and he says, this, and what did he forget? And then Simons just does something, right? And so
Hmm.
McClane shoots him point blank in the chest with a grenade launcher, and or something. And he just stands up, like blows the barrel off, and he goes, he forgot his flak jacket, and he walks away. It's so good. It's just like that it's the perfect ending for that ridiculous movie.
Okay.
But I just think I think it's perfect. And
Hmm.
it's not better by any stretch of the means, but
Hmm.
it is my favorite. Yeah, for
That's
sure.
fine.
That's a big hot take, I think.
Okay. Okay. Like I cannot remember. I don't think I ever actually rewatched the third one, so I need to rewatch it because it's been a hot minute. But I have just rewatched the first one because obviously it was Christmas. So you need to rewatch, Die Hard on Christmas. It just struck me as why it's so influential because yeah, you can see blueprints for pretty much the entire 90s, like when it comes to
Yeah.
action movies. When my girlfriend was watching it with me, she was like, I still don't get it. I was like, well, because here's the thing, they made it in like 89. And then the entire 90s were this is Die Hard on a plane, this is Die Hard on a boat, this is Die Hard on a
Yep.
bus, this is
Yep.
Die Hard on
Yep.
this. And she was like, oh, okay. And she kind of got into it and she was like, all right, it's okay. It's good. It's pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I showed my wife the first one. She's like, it's fine. And I'm like, yeah, it's okay. Like you don't have to like every movie, and
Exactly.
especially like it's a movie this hyped up. But
Hmm.
I love watching the third one.
No, I definitely need to rewatch it. It's been a hot minute since I watched that one. So yeah. Any more hot takes, or do you want to move to the underrated section?
I don't know that I have a hot take
Hmm.
offhand right now. I mean, I'm sure I could think of one. But I don't know if this is a hot take or not.
Hmm.
I doubt it. I think it could be only because it's like iconic or because it's got such a wide variety, but I think I have an answer to what is your favorite movie scene of all time.
Okay.
And again, I don't know that it's a hot take, but it's just one of those where it's like if you would say what is the best movie scene of all time, I think that could be a million different things, you know?
Hmm. Hmm.
It's to me it's the hamburger scene from Pulp Fiction.
Oh, okay. When Samuel L. Jackson is eating the hamburger, or
It's where they walk into the to Brad's apartment.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
he's eating the Big Kahuna burger,
Yeah.
and he says, can I have a bite, and can I wash
Hmm.
down this tasty
Hmm.
beverage with this tasty beverage, and and there's the incredible exchange where he's just like, what ain't no country I ever heard of, and they speak English on what is just amazing. It's I think the most clever scene ever put to
Hmm.
film.
Okay, that's hard to no, that's hard to argue against, to be honest. That's a great one.
Yeah, but I mean, there's a million you could choose. You could pick the ending to Raiders of the Lost Ark, or you could
Hmm.
pick, the reveal of Darth Vader being Luke's father in
Yeah.
Star Wars. You could pick, boy, even just you could pick maybe like the ending to Fight Club. I think is you could pick that. You could pick the wormhole scene from Interstellar, right? You could
Hmm.
pick freak any scene from Inception, right? You could pick anything from the MCU, like certain moments from the MCU. I don't think anybody would blame you. Certain scenes
Hmm.
from like Matrix or like Toy Story or Toy Story 3, or
Hmm.
Goodfellas, right? Like Godfather, right? How about the intro scene to The Godfather? That could
Yeah,
easily be that. So I just think it's one of those. There's a million different options you can pick, and
exactly.
I have an answer.
No, it's fine. That's perfectly fine. Many movies, many more hot takes, many more scenes to choose from. So, but speaking of
Um,
many more, yeah,
I think I have one more hot take. I'll just be brief
tell
about
me.
this one because I only recently discovered this. Oh boy, I think Toy Story 2 is the best Toy Story.
Okay, okay.
And I thought for the longest time it was the weakest, and I think it's the best. I think that one is great, but two just is a little bit better, and four I think is my least favorite. And I like four, I think more than a lot of people. I think some people have soured on it, but I really liked four. And I think I wrote the article. It was my first ever like full review for Sif Pop, and I think I said something along the lines of like it's the worst Toy Story movie, but like it's still great.
Hmm.
Like I still like low side loved it. And I think Toy Story 3 like hit at the time perfect because that was 2013. Like I was kind of Andy's age. Like I went
Hmm.
to college in 2013.
Hmm.
So that was me, I was Andy in that movie.
Wasn't it 2010? The third
Oh
one.
shoot. No, you're right. You're right. You're right. You're right. Is it
Yeah.
2010?
Let me quickly double check. So
No, you're right. It's 2010.
because
Either
like,
either way, I went to college in 2003.
mm,
I was pretty close to there. So and I think like based off of like I was kind of supposed to be about Andy's age.
mhm.
Because I was born in 95 when the first Toy Story came out, right? 95?
I think it's 94.
Yeah, 95. I got it.
Oh, 95. Okay.
Um, so
Okay.
yeah, so I guess Andy's supposed to be a couple of years older than me, but either
Mm,
way, like it's so close. But I think it's one of those that it maybe hasn't held up as well on
mhm.
rewatches, especially far enough removed, and especially like now that we have gotten Toy Story 4, it really kind of sours the ending of Toy Story 3 just a little bit. And when we get Toy Story 5, it will sour the ending of Toy Story 4 just a little bit,
Yep.
especially if there is a reunion between Woody and Buzz. But no, I think Toy Story 2 is I think the best actually now, and I only
Okay.
recently discovered that rewatching them.
See, I need to. That's another thing. Like, I didn't grow up with this, even though I'm kind of a right age for it. But I have only seen my first Toy Story when I was a bit older for them for those movies to, for them to hit me as much as they would hit others. So I've only watched them when I was kind of almost adult. So like I love them all, but it's just like they never. It's not those animated movies I would go back to. I've only watched every single one like once. So I don't really have any special attachment to either of those, to be perfectly honest. But
I think there's
yeah.
also like,
Hmm.
and shoot, maybe even in conversation for the best movie scene of all time is in Toy Story 2 where Woody gets repaired. It's just
Oh yeah.
perfect.
I still remember that scene. So yeah, that made an impact. That scene is beautiful.
Yeah, I think I don't need to harp on it anymore.
That's
Otherwise, I'll
fine.
never shut up.
That's look, it's all about you, man. It's all about you. But now let's move on to the underrated ones. So Aaron,
Mhm.
who do you think is the most underrated actor we have right now?
I'm actually really struggling to think with any of these because I think maybe even a year ago I would have still answered Ryan Gosling because I think people only see
Hmm.
him as like one note, but he's got so much potential for a wide range. But now that we've got Barbie, like,
Hmm. Yeah.
obviously, right? To me, it's one of those where it's like which actor hasn't lived up to their potential. But I'm gonna try to answer what actor do I think is underrated. Or like there's people that are like maybe I have an answer. Maybe I have an answer. Shoot, maybe I don't. I don't know. Like I
We can skip this. That's all good.
no, I gotta have an answer. All right, let me just think out loud. Because my like again going towards the like who's an actor that like really set the bar high and then never reached it. Like I think Dane DeHaan from Chronicle was incredible, and then he hasn't really done anything great since.
Hmm.
But that's not underrated. And like shoot, maybe Andrew Garfield is. But like I don't know. I think he's that good though. I think he's just maybe underseen. He's just kind of breaking out. But I think Jovan Adepo is awesome. He's from Babylon. He plays the trumpet player
Hmm.
in Babylon, and he's also in this year's To Catch a Killer. He's actually like my choice to replace Kang if they do indeed recast.
Well, I think
Um,
they have dropped him already. The Jonathan Majors is gone.
yeah, no, but I'm saying like if they do recast as opposed to just write out Kang, if they still want to continue the Kang storyline,
I think they are way too deep into it not to. So
I agree, but
and they
yeah.
can for
It's not like
him
they haven't recast before.
first and second for the Kang character. From what I understand, it wouldn't be opposed to his character to show up as somebody else. Be like, that's me,
Right.
Kang.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Underrated actor. I feel like there's also maybe an answer here where it's like somebody who all right, for the sake of having an answer, I think I'll go ahead and go for this. I'll say Ana de Armas.
Okay, so we're
Um
going to actress. All right, Ana de Armas. That's
oh
actually the
shoot, there's
second
actor and
time.
actress.
That's actually the second time today. He also chose her, to be honest. So
Awesome.
nice.
I was like, here's the thing. I think people look her and obviously she's one of the most gorgeous women in
Hmm.
Hollywood. Like obviously, right?
Hmm.
And she's been in some crap, right? Like I
Yes.
haven't seen Blonde, but I know people don't really like it. And I didn't see Knock Knock, but I know there's only one reason people like it, and it's Naked Ana de Armas.
Yep.
And I haven't seen like a lot of the movies, but like first of all, she blew me away like with how well she fit into No Time to Die, and I'm
Hmm.
so excited for Ballerina because of that.
Hmm.
Or even look at like I didn't see Ghosted, but nobody saw Ghosted.
Yes. Nobody.
And no and people that saw it hated it. But like legitimately, I think she's incredible in Knives Out. And I think even we did the Oscars the reevaluating the Oscars a year afterwards and on the Sif Pop Writers Room podcast. And I think I put Ana de Armas for Best Supporting Actress for Knives Out. Because I think she's worth it. So yeah, and I think she's got the range, but yeah, I think it's one of those that unfortunately like she hasn't had the best like picker
Hmm.
and she's remarkably gorgeous. So, but I think she's super talented, and yeah, I would
She
say,
is. And I'll say Blonde, even though it's an interesting movie to say the least, she actually is the best part about the movie. Even though there's a lot, it's a tough movie to get through. There's a lot of unpleasant stuff going around. But she actually earns, she was nominated for an Oscar for that role. And she earned that Oscar nomination, even though, yeah, there were complaints that Marilyn Monroe didn't have, her accent. But you know what? That's fine.
yeah,
Just
I'm gonna see if I can pick Paul. I think I can pull a actor nomination.
okay, okay.
I think I can do it.
In the meantime, would you have like underrated director ready? Somebody you think is just, flowing under the radar, doing great job.
I don't see. I'm not huge into the indie scene, so I don't exactly
Hmm.
know about that. Like, I don't know. Like, I'm
Hmm.
sure like Heath probably pulled out a more sophisticated answer than what I could go for. I mean, part of me also really just kind of wants to pick M. Night Shyamalan, but
Hmm.
because I think he's actually like I really like Old and Knock at the Cabin, and I
Hmm.
really liked Glass too, and part of me really wants to just pick Shyamalan or whatever, but I think I want to pick Scott Derrickson.
Ah, nice.
Yeah, I think Sinister is the best crafted horror movie ever.
Okay.
Like
Okay.
I think it's just everything about that movie, the light, the
Hmm.
sound, the Super 8 footage that was shot practical, it's all every part of that movie just works to
Hmm.
scare the pants off of me. So there's that, and then I haven't seen The Day the World Stood Still. I have not yet seen, but would really like to see soon. And Al Foster told me I would love it. But the Exorcism of Emily Rose, of course, he did a couple years ago The Black Phone, which was one of my favorite horror movies. There again, could have been relatively average, but it's just directed so well, and
Hmm.
I think he's a really fun storyteller. And I think he did the first Doctor Strange, which I don't think would work as well with another director. I mean, take Multiverse of Madness, right? Sam Raimi, legendary Sam Raimi, made a
Hmm.
fine Doctor Strange movie. Scott Derrickson pulled off something special with that one, I think, to be just, I think that one's really good on
Hmm.
nearly every level. And
I'll say I'm high
um,
on both, like Doctor Strange movies. If I were to pick, I would go with Multiverse of Madness just a tiny bit. But again, that's just
okay.
me.
I
And
really liked Multiverse of Madness. I think more than most people, but
me too, to be honest. And just speaking of Scott Derrickson, I had to IMDb this, so I'm sure. But I just actually watched his first feature movie. Do you know what that is, by the way?
is it The Day the Earth Stood Still?
No,
He did one before that?
he did two before that. He did
Two before that.
The Exorcism
Oh,
of Emily
Exorcism of
Rose.
Everly Rose was before
But
that.
many people would believe that, and it's not his feature debut though. His feature debut is Hellraiser Inferno, which is the fifth
Oh yeah, I
Hellraiser,
did know that. That's right.
which is a very weird Hellraiser movie, I'll say. It's this kind of like noir horror that's not really Hellraiser. It's almost, I feel like if you would ever go to a Hellraiser franchise, because you love Season of the Witch, Halloween Season of the Witch, right?
Yes, I do.
So if you enjoy that, I think you will absolutely love this because it's so different from this franchise. I don't think it worked, but if Season of the Witch worked for you, I have a sneaky suspicion this will work for you magnificently. And this is the fifth movie of that franchise.
Okay. Cool.
So,
Um, yeah, I just like again for underrated pick, like I'm
mhm,
just like he and Flanagan are the Mike Flanagan are the two people in horror that whatever they're making next, I'm in. Especially I think Sinister is like I love seeing Sinister get a bunch of love because it seems like
mhm,
people have kind of like really admired it and appreciated it now, and so much so that like there's a somebody that recently did a test to like see what is the scariest horror movie out there, so they like hooked up people to EKG machines and whatnot,
yeah.
and Sinister was the most consistent like elevated heart rate and other things is awesome to
I've
to
seen it
see.
in a cinema, the first Sinister, and I that was probably the only movie I couldn't fall asleep after like the entire night. So like that was a sleepless night because they just
Yeah.
got me so bad. I have a story. My mate and I, when we walked out, back to our flat because back then we were roommates. We are both obviously just in shock from what we just seen. And there's this guy who we knew from work who spotted us. We neither of us noticed him, and he said, "Hello, hey Joseph." That was my friend's name, and he kind of came out of nowhere. So my friend almost sold his pants because he was so fucking terrified from Sinister. He just jumped in the middle of the street. He was like, "Oh, did I do something? I'm sorry, I'm sorry." And he was like, "No, it's not you, it's not you. We just saw this movie. It's called Sinister. Oh, fucking shit."
Yeah.
So
I think I have an answer for
okay,
actor.
hit me
And
with it.
I think it's one of those I'm gonna say it and you're like, is he? But I think it goes to show that there's been no Oscar nominations, and I
Mm-hmm.
think dude easily could have won many.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to confirm no Oscars love. Correct. Nominated for one Primetime Emmy. Is his like IMDb featured one, which if they've ever been nominated for an Oscar, like is it. But you know what? I'm going Andy Serkis here.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
like I think it's one of those where you're like, yeah, no, Andy Serkis is great, but it's like, yeah, but like he hasn't got the recognition, especially from the Academy, and that's because there is no motion capture Oscar. But
Yes.
I think his performance as Caesar in the Planet of the Apes trilogy should have gotten him an Oscar anyway. Like
Mm-hmm.
in either Dawn or War, I could have easily seen him be in the competition, and if it was live action. I'm sure he would have been in the race, but because it was motion capture, they just didn't really.
Mm-hmm.
But he's so good at. Of course, he's Gollum. You know,
Mm-hmm.
he does the motion capture for the most iconic characters that there have ever been. But and I love that he's starting to get some like real like FaceTime. You know,
Mm-hmm.
doing NCU stuff and doing some other stuff. But I think he's so good. And like to me, it would be criminal if he like did not win an Oscar by the time he retires or by the time he retires or passes or something. I mean,
Yeah.
he'll get a lifetime achievement award from the Oscars for sure, but like it won't be the same as I think retroactively adding a motion capture, you know,
Yeah.
at Lord of the Rings and giving him for 3 straight years as Gollum, you know, like
Mm.
giving him for, you know, 3 straight movies in the Planet of the Apes trip. Like it's just, you know,
I can
um
imagine him getting like some sort of dramatic, shiny role a few years down the line, and he would get that Oscar just for that and for all the work he's done, kind of like what Oscars do, right?
Yeah, it's for sure the biggest problem with the Oscars is that tendency to be like,
Hmm.
well, let's give our lifetime achievement award for this role that probably
Yes,
doesn't deserve it, you know.
exactly.
So
But
yeah,
no, that's a great choice. What about some underrated movies?
oh boy,
Oh boy, indeed.
letterboxed sort average rating lowest first. What do I have rated high? I'll say we do this article on sifpop.com where we essentially do this idea of it's like we talk about an underrated movie that we really love, and so the
Hmm.
idea is it has to be under 50% across the board that you would rate an 8 out of 10 or higher, and like that's kind of our parameters, and
Hmm.
like there's been a pretty decent amount that I've written for the site. I think I wrote on the movie Tag. I really love. Reminiscence is like my go-to. Like I really like Reminiscence. Its execution isn't quite as good as its concept, but
Hmm.
I think it's really really good. I just wrote one for Pacific Rim Uprising that came out this month. Just looking at IMDb or Letterboxd sorted by average rating first, I'll say Halloween Ends. I'm a pretty big fan of. Blade Trinity is actually like you kind of know what you're getting into. You know, you were on that episode, right?
No, but I'm actually one of the few that has a fan with the movie, yeah, so I actually am in your camp.
Yeah, it's if you know what you're getting into,
Hmm.
it's a heck of a lot of fun. Sticking with the Halloween franchise, like I'm not defending the movie at all, but I think Halloween Resurrection is really fun. It's terrible, but it's actually like worth watching because it is so bad it's good.
Okay.
Which is maybe the only one in the franchise I can say that for.
Hmm.
Spiral from the Book of Saw is my second favorite Saw movie. Let's see here. I feel like there's got to be like one just whopper right in the middle here, like 5 stars that I've given, you know, to a 2.5 star movie. I can't. I think I've given enough. I'm
No, yeah,
content.
I think you're all good, all sorted. And would you have a TV show that's you reckon is so underrated right now?
Ooh, ah.
Or maybe it's ended and you're like, hey, everybody should rewatch this and reconsider what they think of it.
I should start coming prepared to podcast. It's so weird because I feel like so many movies have gotten their love, or so many shows have
Hmm.
gotten their love, especially if it's like, no, it was really overlooked at the time. Like Netflix has done that, where like mo shows have gotten their second life and sometimes
Hmm.
even a better life, right?
Yeah.
Like my favorite comedy of all times is Scrubs, and Scrubs was a really big hit for a couple seasons, and then it sort of lost a little bit, and then it, had maybe the best series finale of all time, and not maybe, definitely the best series finale of all time, and then like it got second life when it was just Netflix was the only streamer, and it
Hmm.
continued to carry for a while, and then COVID they started that rewatch like Scrubs is carry anyway. You know what? I want to throw out one here,
Okay.
um, and it's partly because the lead actor is so good, and it's partly because the show only got one season, and you can kind of tell it was handcuffed.
Hmm.
But I think if they would have gotten more, I would have loved to see more. And my answer is gonna be Constantine.
Oh, okay. I totally
You,
forgot there was a TV show, to be honest.
yeah, did you see it?
No, I heard about it. I heard it was pretty decent, actually. So, okay.
So it's the most jarring experience because it was one season that was I think about like 13 episodes. And the pilot happens, but you can tell they shot the pilot and then CW greenlit the pilot, but they wanted them to change the direction because there's a couple of plot threads that never like come to fruition. They're
Okay.
just completely abandoned by the time episode 2 comes around, and they essentially redo a pilot for episode
Hmm.
2. So it's super jarring and it's terrible. But it was also a CW show, and so for that reason they also like wanted it to be a CW show, And so it's very much a Supernatural clone. Like it kind of like it definitely feels that way. But Matt Ryan is so good in that, and they tease a bunch. I would have loved to see season 2 because like they tease like Dr. Fate, and they tease a bunch of like really fun like DC like lesser known things. It's
Hmm.
Matt Ryan is just killing it in the role, and so I'm so happy they gave him the opportunity to reprise it in Legends of Tomorrow, and then eventually. Oh, sorry, it wasn't CW, it was NBC, but because it was a big deal when he went to Legends of Tomorrow because that was CW,
Hmm.
and he does the voice cast for Constantine. But it was an NBC show that was clearly trying to be a
CW.
supernatural notch.
Okay.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was
yeah.
not NBC quality. It feels like they made it for CW and CW didn't want to run it, and NBC was like, "Well, we'll run it." Like it kind of
Hmm.
feels like that. So you could just tell there was a lot of behind the scenes stuff that just really hindered the show. And I'm not saying that it's great, like it's great, but I am saying it's absolutely worth a watch, especially for like 13 episodes, 40 minutes apiece.
No, that's a solid pick. And again, I completely forgot there was a Constantine TV show, to be honest.
Hmm.
But yeah, well, you've been talking for a while, so I do, I appreciate that. But let's turn the tables now. Do you have any question for me?
I think I'm just going to give you one whopper.
Oh, let's go.
Luke, I would love to know. I want to know your biggest hot take. Anybody in Hollywood that you think is overrated.
Oh, okay.
Has to be a hot take overrated.
Overrated
So it
Hollywood.
has to be overrated, and it has to be like I don't think most people would answer this.
No, yeah, yeah. I see, I see. Okay. Oh, and Hollywood overrated. Who do I not
It
get?
could
I
be
don't
an
get
actor,
many people.
director, actress, could be
This shouldn't be difficult because I don't get
writer.
quite a few people, I think. But I now like let me think. Who do I not get? This is a good question. I think, as I'm trying to still think about it, I usually have so many hot takes about
Yeah.
like especially who I like and who I don't. And there must be at least like an actor or
Well,
somebody.
yeah, I'm like if I'm like maybe it's like Tom Cruise or a Quentin Tarantino or like somebody who generally is like loved that you're like I
Mm-hmm.
hate that guy, like
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Damien Chazelle or
No, no, those are pretty good people. Like I used to say I don't get Quentin Tarantino or why is
uh-huh.
he as famous. But now again, that was like a teenage me. So like that was the edgy me that was trying to be different. And now I get it. I get why
Yeah. A year ago I'd have said Timothy Chalamet, but
mm,
you know what? I've come around to him because I've seen some of his movies now, more
mhm.
than Don't Look Up and Dune.
You know what? Maybe oh, no, this is definitely a hot take. I don't think it's hottest of hot takes, but
Okay. All right, I'll take it.
so speaking of Tarantino, that put me on the right track. I really love Reservoir Dogs. his first
Yeah.
movie, and I think it's better than Pulp Fiction. Which, and I understand now, as as we learn, as us movie people learn about cinema and about why things are important and why are they regarded in this way. And I can see everything that movie is doing and why it would be revolutionary, and it is revolutionary. I just don't think that movie is works for me as well as Reservoir Dogs, where it's just a simple heist kind of drama that starts as a heist and turns into some sort of who can we trust, nobody trusts
Hmm.
anybody else, and then just bloodshed pursues.
I think actually Pulp Fiction is a movie that I love, but I
Hmm.
do think is maybe a bit overrated because it used to be in my top 10 of all time and now it's in my
Hmm.
50s. And I just realized like when we think of Pulp Fiction, we think of all the stuff that really works in it. We think
Hmm.
of all the like, the hamburger scene, right? We think of the Harvey Keitel coming in and being the cleaner, right? We think of all
Hmm.
the
The
John
dance.
Travolta and Uma Thurman, yeah, date thing. There's so much about that movie that really works, but
Hmm.
I think every single thing about the Bruce Willis storyline is terrible. So like I used to love the movie and be like, yeah, that kind of sucks and it really drags it down a bit. Like it drags it down a lot to me. Like
Hmm.
it's not like I'm not trying to say that like I think Bruce Willis did a bad job in it or
Hmm.
whatever, but I'm just like I think they should have just completely omitted that section.
Hmm.
If they could redo it. Like and I'm maybe that's a hot take, but it's like so I'm willing to I think it's one of those where it's like because Pulp Fiction is kind of three distinct stories, if one of them doesn't work, it really brings the movie down. I still give the
Yeah.
movie 4.5 stars,
No, me too.
because I think everything else works so well. But you're right. I haven't seen, I saw Reservoir Dogs once, and I saw it like as my, I think second Tarantino movie, which
Hmm.
I think it took me four movies to really get his style and
Hmm.
start liking him. But you're right. If Reservoir Dogs is a more simple movie, I think it would be a hot take.
Hmm.
But I'm saying, I think I would need to watch Reservoir Dogs again. But
Yeah.
I'm inclined to agree with your hot take. But also, Inglourious Bastards is my favorite Tarantino
Hmm.
movies. Inglourious Bastards is better than Pulp Fiction
Hmm.
to me.
But I just thought of another one, which I think it will be even hotter. Even though, again,
Okay, all right, I'm ready.
I'm not saying this movie is bad. I'm just saying it's way overhyped and overrated, and that's Forrest Gump. Because, and hear me out. Again, I'm
Hmm.
not saying it's if you look up my Letterboxd, I think it's like 4 out of 5. So again, I like it. I don't love it. And here's the thing. I went into the movie expecting this more than life movie. It's kind of like, like Shawshank
Yep.
Redemption or something like extraordinary. And I was waiting for that something extraordinary. And then the movie ended. And I was like, really? Like it was a
Hmm.
good story. Like it was like, and obviously like, him going through the history and meeting all these people and kind of helping them out by accident almost. And or like doing a bunch of stuff almost by accident. And I understand the appeal, but I just feel like I don't think, and if I'm not mistaken, that's the big winner of Oscars of that year. That we
I
know
think it
we
was,
had
yes.
Pulp Fiction, we had Shawshank Redemption, we had several big knockouts, and that was the big winner of the night. Like I give you Tom Hanks.
Yep.
I don't get the love, like the best picture when Shawshank is right there.
Yeah, I'll give it score too. Score's incredible. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, the score. No, the score. Okay, yeah, the score is iconic. No, I would definitely call it iconic by now, 100%.
But yeah,
The
like you're right. Again, it's my favorite movie year ever. You got Shawshank
mm-hmm,
Redemption, Wes
mm-hmm,
Craven's New Nightmare, Pulp Fiction, Hudsucker Proxy, Quiz
mm,
Show,
mm,
Speed, The Crow, as aforementioned,
yep,
True Lies, Leon the Professional, The Mask, Natural Born Killers, Interview with a Vampire, Clear and Present Danger. You've got Ace Ventura, Pet Detective, and there was one other Jim Carrey one. Dumb and Dumber was that year.
yeah, and the mask, I
Um,
believe.
yeah, I think I already mentioned The
Oh,
Mask.
okay.
But either way, if I didn't, Ed Wood was that
Mm,
year.
I believe
Um,
so.
yeah, yeah, it was. Bullets Over Broadway. Um,
Yes, it was that year. Edward. You know why? Because I just remembered there's a Oscar scene where Samuel L. Jackson loses to Edward, the legendary actor. I'm blanking out his name on, and he finally got his Oscar, and you can see Samuel L. Jackson just saying "fuck." If you, yeah, I'm blanking out his name. So if you if you go on YouTube and search this actor's name, I'm blanking out on, winning Oscar in 1995, because that's for 1994 movies. Yeah, you can see in the brief clip, when they see the split screen of all the nominees, and Samuel Jackson is clearly mad that he didn't want it for Pulp Fiction. So that's kind of funny.
Nice. Yeah, yeah, 1994 is a stacked year, but I
And
think I
again,
think I think I
Forrest
have to
Gump,
change my answer though to my favorite movie year of all time to be 2016. I think it just has to be. But
2016. Okay.
well, that's detracting. But yeah, you're right.
Yes.
1994 is stacked, and Forrest Gump.
Yeah.
I think that is becoming less of a hot take that Forrest Gump is overrated, and I think there's also like people are recognizing like the Jenny character is a bit problematic. She for sure takes advantage of a mentally challenged person.
But again, it was 90s, so hey, nobody bothered with that shit. So
Yeah,
it's just,
pretty much.
we've changed. We've grown. But
Yep.
anyway, this was a blast, and I so much appreciate of your time and all your input. And if people love your stuff, where should they go and follow you?
Just the Civ Pop Writers Room podcast, I think is the best way, and catch Luke on there once every 6 months.
Yeah, that's me. No
And
letterbox,
and on
nothing.
some of the review roundups.
Yes, no
By the way,
letterbox.
I'm Team Robert and Heath on the Leave the World Behind argument.
That's fine. I know I'm in the minority. That's perfectly fine. And you can catch me on lostinmovies.co.uk, on obviously on this podcast, and on Letterboxd and Movies Lost. And as always, this podcast is part of SPDM Crew Podcast Media. Also, big shout out to HiFlyer Creative for designing my logo. To see what else they have happening, visit hiflyercreative.com. And until next time, bye bye.